Yo, what's up, everybody? I'm getting everything set up here. You probably hear me clacking away in the background. Just want to get a couple windows squared up to make sure this moves along smoothly. If you can hear me in the chat and out in the stream, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, please. I've got like 4 different setups for Twitch streaming now, and they're all different, so I always got to mess with everything. All right, cool. I see a thumbs up from Neo Antoine. Awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. So I think we should just go ahead and get started, yeah? All right. So let's see. Boom. All right, cool. Actually, hang on one second. Let's go back to starting soon. I totally forgot to do something. And this has to be done off camera. Sorry, guys. All right. Awesome. All right, cool. That's done. All right, now we can go ahead and get back into it. All right. So, as you can tell, we've got a new discount code for the stream. It's PanzerStream 3. It's good through the 13th of this month or until the next time we stream, and then it'll change. So, if you don't act fast, you're going to miss out on it. I'm not going to tell you how much it is off your order this month or this stream, so go ahead and take a look at it for yourself. All right, to go ahead and get started, there's a couple things that we're going to want to do. First, we want to come to jasonscustoms.com, and we're going to want to scroll all the way to the bottom. And we are going to find this Plexi templates link. This is important. This is the files that I put out so that you can use my service as easily as possible. I provided a couple of versions of each file. One is the straight Photoshop version. That's the easiest way to build your art. And the second is the Illustrator option. I prefer to use Illustrator when I can make my art in it, if it makes sense. But we're going to walk through the basic process of both, and why you're going to want to follow this is because, one, it's going to make my job a lot easier when it comes time to set up the overall big print file, and 2, it's going to make sure that what you send me is exactly what you want. So I'm going to assume that you are going to submit something in a excuse me, you're not going to submit it as a PSD. You're going to work primarily in Photoshop to develop your art. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to have a copy of both Photoshop, which I've linked a trial version here, and Illustrator, which I've also linked here. And you're going to want to install that onto your computer. Once you have that done, you're going to find the file that you want to use. In this case, I'm actually going to put together some artwork that a customer put together and sent in via the printed Plexi listing on the site. They submitted a Photoshop file, but after this, everyone's going to submit an Illustrator file to make my life easier, right? Right? I hope so, because that will make this much better for everybody. Anyways, it is a Namco Noir layout, so they've downloaded this Photoshop file here. They click that and download it. And then they're going to come over to the Illustrator files, use with a bezel, that's the Panzer Fight Stick 4, and they're going to find the Namco Noir, and you're going to download that. Once those are down on your computer, you're going to have both the Photoshop file that you're going to start working in, and you're going to have the Illustrator file that you're going to use second. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up Photoshop here. And this artwork has already been submitted. And this was a very good submission because it kind of shows off everything that we're looking for when we set up our artwork. Whatever your feelings on Ghost in the Shell are, I don't care. It doesn't matter. But for the purposes of this tutorial, this is the artwork that has been submitted by the customer. And you can see in the lower left-hand corner, they put my logos in there, which I'm very appreciative of. Thank you so very much. Okay, what they've done is they've taken all of the layers, the alignment layers, and they left it in group 1, which is perfect because if you hide it, it goes away and it just leaves the artwork. You want to leave it there because this is how you're going to align the template, the Illustrator template, with your art in the next step. So let's just pretend this art is a blank slate, and we go in, we do all our Photoshop magic using all the tools. This isn't a Photoshop tutorial. We get all of our art done, and the things that we're going to look for to make sure that we're good. One, there's these two outer pink lines here. The big one is the overall, the final size of the palette, or excuse me, that's not right. The final size of the canvas on which you can work. The one right below that, that is the bleed. You want to try and get your artwork to go as close to that line as possible, just to make sure that there's no white left anywhere where we're going to actually cut the plexi. And then next is the actual template of the panel itself. And on the inside, it's going to be the layout that you choose or whatever. Now, when you're at this point, this is not where you want to start deleting parts of the template because you don't want them cut. Just leave this alone. We're going to take care of it all in the next step and just get it all set up much like this. If you go all the way to the outer edges, perfect, no problems. But if you keep it within this and don't let your art go outside the boundaries up here or anything like that, crop it down, whatever, that's awesome. Then once all your artwork is done, you're going to want to take all of your artwork layers and you're going to want to merge them down into one file, or excuse me, one layer. That's going to keep the file size a little bit smaller and make the upload a lot faster. And it's going to be a lot easier to work with in Illustrator as well. All right, so that's all done. We're going to pretend good to go. Now we're going to open up Illustrator. I've already got it up here. And we're going to open the template that we want to use. In this case, I downloaded the template that has all of the templates on it. So you can see here, I can start adding them. And then this is just when I'm building these out, it's easier for me to use this because then I can just grab or hide the ones I don't care about. So hide that. Now we have the one that's left over. Okay, and this is the template we're going to want to submit. So once we leave the template layer intact that we want, we can actually go through and just highlight these other ones and delete them. Boom, just like that. And it's actually good to do that because one, you don't want to submit something and accidentally leave something on and me get confused about what layout you're trying to use. And you don't want to have to delay your print because I wasn't sure what was going on. And we have to email back and forth. So get this all set up. You're going to want to leave the Plexi block border and the bleed line intact. I need those for alignment purposes with the overall big print file. Then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go up here to File, and you're going to want to go to Place. And let's see. All right, it pops it up. You're going to want to navigate to wherever your Photoshop file is. In this case, I'm going to deal with order 1458 because it's a PSD file, and that's the one we're just looking at. So click that and hit Place. And it's going to come up, and it gives you this little tiny preview of the file. And what I always do is, because I used the Photoshop template that I downloaded from my website, I go into the upper left corner, and then I click. And then it puts it in its correct spot. Now, the interesting thing about this is you can see this artwork is pretty small. So I think that whoever set this up may have changed the resolution on the file, maybe from 300 or from 600 DPI down to 300. I'm not sure which. But if you find yourself in a situation like this, when you're doing this, you're going to want to fix it. But in this case, what we can do is I'm going to click and drag, and I just go all the way to the other corner, and it looks like that filled it up. And then I double click. Whoops. All right. And now it's placed. Okay, cool. Then I'm going to take it and I'm going to move it I'm going to move it just below the template that I care about. In this case, the Noir one. So it's physically behind the template I care about. All right. Now you might be like, all right, cool, I'm done, right? Well, no, we're not done yet. Some of the things you want to look in is make sure that everything's lined up. So you're not going to see any like double pink lines anywhere. We got a couple here or there. Because this artwork isn't super contingent on it being perfectly aligned, we're probably okay there. It's just a couple little minor things, and that's just because we had to resize the art. If we didn't have to resize the art, it would be perfect. So I may actually have to reach out to the customer on this one and say, hey, I need you to re-look at this and submit it again. But in this case, let's take this anyways. We're going to just click it, and we'll use our arrow keys and try and get it lined up the best we can. And that looks pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's probably close enough. And Go ahead and click off of that, and now we have it aligned where we want it. Where this really becomes important is when you have artwork like the Vuelix layout, or you have a Neo Geo layout, where it has to be perfectly centered in the button rings and such. But I think if you're doing art like that, you're probably going to want to use an Illustrator file to build all that anyways, and it's a lot easier. I have a whole video on how to do that on YouTube if you want to take a look at that. Okay, now we've got this all set up. We're happy with the alignment. Next thing we got to do is go back over to Photoshop. And then we're going to physically go to the group one, and we're going to turn that layer off just by clicking the little eyeball, and all the cut lines go away. And now you're left with just the art that you care about printing. Go ahead and hit File, and then Save. And this is going to take a second. You see we're at 99%. Just thinking. I got this going over my network. All right, cool, it's done. And then if we go back to Illustrator, it's going to pop up and say, hey, the artwork changed. Do you want to update it? Click yes. And boom, all the Photoshop lines now disappeared. And the only thing that's left is the actual artwork and the cut lines that are from Illustrator. So if we hide the cut lines, we're back to just plain art. Cut lines back on, great. Cut lines off, great. That's what we want to see. And at this point, we're happy with this, right? So the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to click the layer that our artwork's in. In this case, I've named it 1458 because that's the order number. And your setup may be a little bit different based on how your windows are set up in Illustrator. And that's okay. I'll go the long way. So I click the layer and it's highlighted. And I go up to Object. And then I go to Rasterize. And then I want to rasterize this other, and I want to go up to 600 DPI. Background white is okay. Everything, color mode, leave it as CMYK. That's how printers print. Monitors are RGB, prints are CMYK. All right, and now hit OK. It's going to do some things. And now you'll see here it changed that layer name to image. And now this is actually part of the Illustrator file. And I'm just going to rename this to 14, I think it was 58. Because that's for me later and tracking purposes. And at this point, we're going to go File, Save As. All right, there's all my templates, all my files that you guys can see. And we would just save it at this point, and we'd be done with it. And then you physically add it to your order when you're done, and you place it on the website. Now, what if you don't want the turbo area cut out after you get this all set up? That's perfectly fine. To make this easy, let's just go ahead and hide the art. Say we don't want the turbo area cut out because we're using some other method, and this is going on a Mad Catz TE stick, and you're using the alternate options for the Easy Mod. If you click this little arrow here, the direct selection tool, you can click and drag around that, and it just highlights the turbo area, and then hit delete. Perfect. Now that's gone. Now let's say you don't want the extra buttons beyond the 6-button layout. You want the top 4, the number 4 button on the punch row and the number 4 button on the kick row. I wanted to make sure I said that right. To go away too. Same thing, direct selection tool, and then you're gonna highlight that and hit delete. And we have a little leftovers. Hit that and delete. Do the same thing on the bottom button. And then delete. All right, cool. Now those are gone. Now we've got a 6-button panel. Put the art back on. Look at that. That's what I'm going to cut. I'm only going to cut the pink lines that you leave behind. Say, I actually had a customer reach out on Discord today and say, hey, can you make it 6 buttons, no turbo? And then I don't want to use the middle screws. I'm just going to hold it down with the outwards, the 4 extreme screws. Sure, just do the same thing. Click that, delete it, highlight that, delete it, and now they're gone too. Again, whatever you delete in the Illustrator file is fine. Just know that the stuff left, those pink lines, are the only things I'm going to cut. So this gives you a lot of options and a lot of flexibility when you're doing that. So it's important you put your art in first, get that all aligned, then hide your art, and then use the direct selection tool to remove the circles that you don't want cut. It's as easy as that. And then when you're done, again, file save, upload it to your artwork order, and you'll be good to go. So I hope that was useful. It's very very straightforward and very easy to do this before you upload it. I highly recommend you take the time to import your art from Photoshop, align it all on your own in Illustrator, rasterize that layer, remove any cuts that you don't want inside the panel templates, leave everything else, the bleed lines and the overall boundaries alone, and then save it and upload it as one file. And as long as you've rasterized this file, or rasterized the image, or the graphics rather, that you want printed at 600 DPI, and you leave everything else alone, it'll be no problems. And it actually saves me a bunch of time. So when I normally print and cut these, it's like 25 of them at a time. I have to go through, and what you saw me just do, I have to do on every single one. And it's really not a big deal. It's pretty easy. I've got a couple things that I do in the back end to make it fast. But when it's like alignment type stuff and very specific artwork, sometimes people have tweaked my templates, which make it difficult to get things aligned properly. And so, you know, maybe the buttons aren't perfectly centered in a circle or something like that. So it's always better for you to use the brand new templates from my website every time. Make all your artwork in Photoshop like we showed, toss it in Illustrator, rasterize it after you get all aligned, and then submit that Illustrator file. So I hope that was very useful. I'm not sure. I feel like it was useful. If there's any questions in the chat, please let me know. Maybe we'll go through it one more time, just an abbreviated step. Let's actually go ahead and do that. While you guys furiously type your questions in the chat, I'm going to delete this. Actually, watch this. I'm going to Control Z. I'm going to undo a bunch of stuff and put this all back to the way it was. Cool. Cool. All right, we'll delete that. Okay, we're going to go back to Photoshop. And we're going to go ahead and turn this on. Okay, so real quick to recap for everybody. Get your artwork set up in Photoshop. Make sure you download the template from my website. It's at the very bottom. Under links, you'll see Plexi templates. It'll bring you to this page. On this page, I've kind of broken everything down by fight stick. So first up, Panzer Fight Stick 4. Obviously, I want to push that the most because that's my fight stick that I make and sell. The Photoshop files are here. Download the one you want to use for the layout you're trying to use. Then you're going to want to download the associated Illustrator file as well. You want to have both of those. If you're doing something like a Mad Catz TE without a bezel, we've got those files here, both the Photoshop and the Illustrator, and this whole process works the same. If you got a Panzer Fight Stick 3, I've only given you the Illustrator files. And then the Mad Catz TE, TE2 Plus templates, Photoshop, and Illustrator files are there. And then the same thing for the TES Plus, the all button panel. You got both the Photoshop and the Illustrator file there. Okay, in this case, for order 1458, they have a noir layout, so we went ahead and downloaded this Namco Noir Photoshop file, and we downloaded this Namco Noir Illustrator file. If you don't have Illustrator or Photoshop installed, I've provided free or links to the trial software, so you can download that and install it. I think that's good for 14 days or something like that. I've always used Photoshop. I don't know GIMP. I don't know Inkscape. I've just used Adobe stuff for so long, and I'm too old to learn something new, and I pay for Adobe, so sorry, guys. But we get that all downloaded, and we're ready to go. So then we go over to Photoshop. We're going to pretend I'm super artistic, and I came up with this amazing Ghost in the Shell artwork, which I did not, and got it all set up. Things I was looking for. I wanted to make sure that my art went all the way to the outer bleed line here. That's middle box. I didn't let any art go off the canvas. I left it all inside the canvas. If it bleeds over this line, that's perfectly okay. I made sure that I kept all of my template stuff in its own folder. So if I hide it, it's still there. Perfect. And I've taken all my art, and after I got it all laid out and happy with where it was, I merged it all down into a single layer. Mind you, this is not a Photoshop tutorial. I'm good at Photoshop, but not good enough to be able to explain all the intricacies of these because of muscle memory reasons, and I don't know the names of anything. I just kind of know how to do things from just time in the software. But in any way, I digress. All the artwork merged down to one. I save it. I'm happy. Then I go over to Illustrator and I've opened up my template. In this case, it's the Namco Noir. It's over here, and it's all in its do not delete cut and alignment lines. That's very important. Do not do that. Do not delete them. Okay, then I come up here and I go File, and I go Place. And I'm going to navigate to wherever my Photoshop file was, and in this case, it's Photoshop file 1458. I click that, and I hit Place. And since I used my template file on my website, I can just go up here to the upper left, click it, and it puts it in place. This is a good point to point out that this one looks like they changed the resolution from like 600 DPI to 300 DPI or vice versa. I'm not sure. But that's okay. If we just click the hollow arrow, we're able to drag this to the edge, to the anchor point here, and that fills up the template, so we're good to go. Let me actually put this in the artwork folder. All right, now that we have this in, what we're going to do is we're going to check for alignment. We're going to zoom in, and look at that. We've got this aligned perfectly. So if I hide this, oh wait, where's that at? Oh, I didn't save this. Sorry, guys. Let me save this because I turned the Photoshop lines back on, or the cut lines back on, and then I forgot to hit save. All right, we'll go back here. Yes, I want that on. Okay. All right, now we're not quite aligned, but that's okay. If I hide this, the Photoshop file still has the cut lines. So I open it back up, boom, right? So here's a quick way we can do this. Let's go ahead and turn these back on, and let me highlight both groups like this. And I'm gonna click the center align, and I'm gonna click the middle align, and that gets us pretty close. If the file was set up properly to begin with, we'd be good to go, but it wasn't. So I have to reach out to the customer on that. Okay, now let's pretend that we're happy with our alignment, because I'm actually pretty happy with this. This is like fractions of a millimeter off. And none of the artwork is actually super specific to an exacting location, so that's okay. We'll go back over to Photoshop, and then we're going to hide this group, and then we're going to actually hit save this time. Let it go. And then when we come back over into Illustrator, it's going to say, hey, something changed. You want me to update? Hit yes. Now the lines got a little bit lighter because in the Photoshop file doesn't have them turned on anymore, so the Illustrator file won't show them. Now we're going to take our artwork, click that, and we're going to go up to and highlight the layer by the artwork layer by actually clicking the circle. And then we're going to go up to Object, and we're going to go to Rasterize. And then from the resolution, we're going to go to Other, and we're going to make sure that's set to 600, leave it as white, and then hit OK. Now it has embedded this artwork into the file, 1458. Hey, click that, and now we just go up to File and then Save, and this is now ready for upload. Now, if you want to change it, like you want, say you don't want the turbo area or something like this, I'll cover that again. Just hide the artwork to make this easy. Go to the direct selection tool and highlight the things you don't want cut out. Say we don't want the turbo cut out, delete it. Say I don't want the punch 4 button cut out, so I'm going to highlight that, delete it. Same thing with this button, delete it. Say I don't want the middle screws, click highlight, delete. Same thing up here, delete. Now, when you turn this all back on and you save it, now I know exactly what you want cut, exactly what your artwork is, and it's all set up and perfectly aligned, ready for me to take and drag and drop into the final print file. So I hope that was useful. This was a pretty short stream, all things considered, 25 minutes, and we went through it twice. I would encourage you to always submit your files for prints on the Illustrator file templates from my website. Again, they're all right here. You can download them, super easy, as well as the trials for the software you need to do so. One thing you can do to make it a little bit easier too is when you save the files, save it with your first and last name that you're going to put on your order. That's real easy for me to find them after the fact, and it's real easy for me to make it simple to ship out when all the prints are done. Because what we do when we print them, we put them all on a big 4-foot by 8-foot sheet, print it all out on a big flatbed UV scanner or UV printer, cure it, bring it back to the laser, align it, and then hit go on the cut, and then we stack them all up and then bring them back to the shop to actually pack up and ship out. So I've got to match artwork to names, and sometimes it's just easier to kind of scroll through the Photoshop previews and see which person's name is which artwork, and then divvy it up that way. So those are some good tips and tricks on how you set up your artwork. I hope this was useful. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Don't forget that discount code PanzerStream3. It's good until the 13th. It's going to get you some discount off your order. No minimums from jasonscustoms.com. I look forward to your printed Plexi artwork in the next run. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out on Discord, discord.jasonscustoms.com, or even Twitter @jasonscustoms. Until next time, I appreciate y'all. Have a good one.